Okay, we're live again. So, Councillor Smith, your question.
Thank you, Chair. And it's a question for the policing licensing group, Danny. The Ask Angela programme and the Op Leicester, and we have had very good reports from it. Councillor Dupe was had very good things to say about it, as someone who goes out drinking in the city. Do we keep any data on how often people use it and need it? And is that data available? You know, is it rather than, you know, is there an individual? And our staff, where somebody becomes accredited, do all staff understand quite clearly what it means? Thank you.
Not any data to hand, but we do have occasions where we get reports from licensed premises that report an Op Leicester, which obviously a drink spike in response frequently, and or an Ask Angela incident as well. And then we will look into those calls. If it's an Ask Angela, we'll do the follow-up with the staff, obviously, to thank them and to say, you know, it's really good that you've used that process as well. And the same with the Op Leicester. Obviously, we will look at each report that comes in as well and decide on whether or not there's any further action or anything that's needed. In respect of training, they each received, obviously, information around what that scheme means and what they're expected to do as a staff member. And they also have the opportunity to sign up to the BIDS zero tolerance training as well, which also encompasses another threshold of sort of VORG related and Ask Angela topics as well. But that goes across to the whole of Canterbury as a whole. So everybody's given that same information. And then you hope that then that's replicated if premises 1 has got that in Canterbury and premises 2 has got that in Whitstable. They all know exactly what the expectation is of them and a licensed premises. Hope that answers that for you.
Right. Any follow-up question? Okay. Councillor Mackenzie, you indicated you want to ask a question too.
Oh, there we go. This one works. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the selling of disposable vapes and reusable vapes to children. So you have included in your report that you've had like a third licensing review. Have there been any other shops selling vapes to children that are on your radar beyond those 3 that have had licensing reviews? And are you aware that lots of shops are now selling vapes that look a lot like disposable vapes but are reusable, and apparently it's cheaper to actually dispose of those cartridges rather than refill them, so it's effectively the same thing? Are you aware of that loophole and taking action on that? Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no colleagues here today from Kent Trading Standards, so that sits with them. They have a designated vape team now since probably the last 18 months. So we do work closely with them if a licensed premises also sells those types of products, and we regularly will partnership work with them, but also feed in information. They hold the powers in respect of the vape legislation, obviously, and changes to that legislation which came in as of the 1st of June, which obviously bans the disposable vapes. So I can't answer any further in respect of their work, but we do pass information, but inevitably it sits with trading standards. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. In that case, I just want to bring the committee's attention to the fact that there was also a written report from Trading Standards, even though Trading Standards aren't here at the moment. But does anybody want to make a comment on the written report from Trading Standards? Councillor Mellish.
Again, as you can guess, Chair, it'd be a very sort of similar comment to my last one in terms of the police report. And I'm really pleased to see that there's this cooperation between the Herne Bay Community Alcohol Partnership and working with the police. Again, though, it would be, so we can refer back to Kent Trading Standards, a bit more detail of what that is. And obviously I know it's up to Liz and I, so Councillor Harvey now, but also have that conversation with CAP. But it'd be good to see in the report a bit more detail about what that means in terms of how they're affecting the community and so on.
Okay, I think we'll try to pass that on to trading standards as a observation, if that's okay. Any other comments on trading standards report? Okay, if not, then I'm going to report that we have had no reports and nobody's present, so far as I'm aware, from Planning, Environmental Health, Kent Fire and Rescue, Health and Safety, Child Protection Agency, Primary Care Trust, Home Office Immigration Service. I'm going to ask a question. Is there anybody present who can give an update on anything from any of those agencies? If not, there's nobody currently present that can do that. So I want to thank everybody that has come from agencies to present reports. And we're going to item 7 on the agenda, which is a titled Question and Answer Session for Councillors. I'm going to actually open this up to not just councillors, so other people, including members of the public, if they wish, can ask a question at this point. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to actually say, as chair of the licensing committee, how impressed I have been about the work of both councillor officers and other agencies, police, trading standards and so on, in respect of the licensing work that's happened over the past year. I mean, that's well reflected in the reports that we've received, and I'm very impressed with that. And I'm actually quite proud to say that we've had a number of reviews, including revocation of premises licenses where absolutely necessary. And I'm pleased that this licensing committee is prepared to actually take, you know, the tough action on revoking somebody's license, and that has implications for their business and all the rest of it, because we have primary duties, you know, to the public and the protection of the public. It does seem to me important that we actually find a way of going forward to improve the work of the licensing committee in conjunction with other agencies, and that can actually improve things further. I think we work very closely with the agencies that have reported to us, but I'm particularly minded, and I've already had a brief conversation with Anton Walden, one of our licensing officers, earlier, about the fact that we haven't had anything from the Primary Care Trust. I'm very concerned about that, because it does seem to me that there's a big role that the licensing committee could help in terms of admissions to hospital because of drug or alcohol related stuff. And I'm minded to actually write to the Primary Care Trust and ask for a report from them, which actually indicates some data from the Primary Care Trust about how many admissions for either alcohol or drug related, or indeed vape-related issues that they are actually experiencing. And I think we should try to find a way of maybe looking at how we can improve our work as a licensing committee in conjunction with the Primary Care Trust, and how that might actually help the new NHS reforms, which are meant to be shifting a focus of primary health care to community hubs and reducing hospital admissions. It seems to me that there is a role for the licensing committee to play in partnership with the Primary Care Trust, and taking some advice from the Primary Care Trust about how admissions to hospital, especially on particular evenings of the week, etc., could be reduced by the way in which we actually undertake our licensing activities. So that's a general question and a suggestion from myself, which we will take forward. But are there other questions that anybody would like to make of the licensing committee? Would you like to come over here? It's Lisa Coulson from Canterbury Bid.
Thank you. Can you hear okay? Just wanted to second that really, because having that kind of data would also help for Purple Flag. And whilst Purple Flag is nice, it's really more about the work that goes on behind the scenes to get Purple Flag that makes a difference. So, and that's, you know, the bid, but partner agencies, the council, et cetera, but the business community. So what would really help us with that data is to then have the appropriate response. So if there are interventions that could be made in the nighttime economy, for example, that would help reduce admissions into the NHS, then those are things that we can look at. But at the moment, that data is largely missing. So just to second that, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to stay there for a moment? Are there any thoughts on what Lisa's just seconded? Please, Lacey.
Good morning. So the Community Safety Partnership has a statutory function where we produce a community safety strategic assessment on an annual basis. As a part of the data that's collected through that, we do our best to include some of those who unfortunately we haven't got reports for today's committee. The data that we do have obviously only probably captures up until December, so there's a considerable gap in terms of live data for now, but in amongst that data it does include admittance to hospital in relation to drug and alcohol. It does split that out between age brackets and gender, but I do agree there is certainly value in having more consistent access to that information to adapt and tailor our approach throughout the year period.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or views or thoughts? Yes, please do.
So the question is, and I know it's available if I went through all the minutes, but how often do you have the other agencies attend this meeting? Is this common attendance? And related to that, there has been, in the last 12 months, the first time I attended a joint meeting that was called by Trading Standards that included licensing and enforcement and planning enforcement, and some of the data that we were able to provide and others led to some of the operations that are in the report that you have. So those kind of joint meetings are incredibly useful. They are, some of that is facilitated, I'm sure Lacey would comment, by the Community Safety Unit, but doesn't always necessarily include the kind of wider KCC element. So how can we facilitate sort of more of that joint working?
Okay, that's a very, very good question, actually. And the answer is, other than the agencies that are present today or have submitted reports, we tend not to get other agencies involved, which is why I'm concerned that we make an effort around at least one of them, which I think is which is an important agency to have, the Primary Care Trust, and to actually sort of move on that work. I think we can actually look as well. Sometimes we have Kent Fire and Rescue here. For some reason we don't have Kent Fire and Rescue today, but there is work with Kent Fire and Rescue. So I don't want to suggest that it's everybody. But actually, I am really concerned that we do have some kind of better relationship with the Primary Care Trust on this work, because I see that as being really important. Yeah, that's something that we can take forward, and I agree with you that there are valuable bits of information that we need to do there. The second bit of your question is really around Kent County Council, and I think some of the thinking there we should report into the thinking that's going on about moving to unitary authorities, because there'll be a similar issue in terms of, you know, that process. So it would be advisable, and I think we can possibly as a committee say we would recommend to chief executives of the Canterbury City Council that are involved with some of the documents preparations for moving to a unitary authority, that this aspect of co-working between authorities, including whatever becomes of the licensing authority, because under a unitary authority there's going to be a change, I would imagine, that actually we build into the planning for unitary authorities that there's better collaboration between agencies. Does that help answer some of your questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions at all? Okay. If not, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is any other urgent business, and none has been notified. And the last item on the agenda is question about exclusion of public. There's no urgent business and no need for excluding press and public. So I would just like to thank all attendees for coming to this meeting and for the additional questions and contributions made by other members that other people have who've not been here before anyways. So thank you very much. And we will take forward some of these issues about trying to bring in a closer collaboration with other agencies. Okay, many thanks for your attendance.